Newest iteration in a long-running Turn 10 series, Forza Motorsport, has just recently been released for an Xbox and PC gamers. New graphical engine, very impressive lighting system, dynamic weather and time of day, ray tracing and much more. But such an overhaul comes at a cost, a very steep cost on my part. Looking at an official Turn 10 system requirements slide, straight away I can determine that my i7-11370H doesn't meet minimum requirements, as 6 physical cores are needed to run the game according to creators. But more on that later. RTX 3060 laptop chip, as shown on Tech Power Up relative performance chart, sits around between GTX 1066GB and RTX 2080 Ti. Simply put, this means absolutely nothing and doesn't give any hint on what details and res I'll be able to play the game. Splendid. Recommended RAM is 16GB, which is fine, as is storage in the form of 2 NVMe drives in my config, with more than enough room. As mentioned before, my Asus TUF F-15 has an i7-3770H CPU with a base clock of 3.3 GHz and turbo maxing out at 4.3 when all cores are utilized. 3060 is capped at 85 watts with small 10 watts boost in the turbo mode. There is 16 gigs of DDR4 3200 MHz memory and 2 SSD NVMe drives, one free and another 4 version variety. All tests were performed in turbo mode chosen in Armoury Crate app. Laptop is running Windows 11 Home 22H2 with latest NVIDIA drivers 537.58. All unnecessary programs were closed and NVIDIA Shadowplay was used to capture the clips. As tested, performance penalty for using capturing software was around 3 FPS, so please bear that in mind. After launching Forza for the first time, warning window popped up with a adorably message saying that my CPU is not supported. However, there was an option to ignore this lovely welcome invitation. The game booted up and compiled shaders, which took a good few minutes. During the compilation, CPU load was at 100% for the entire process. I could only hope it won't fry, and it didn't. Every time I launch the game, short, few seconds shading compilation process shows up on screen. As it only takes 4 to 5 seconds, it doesn't bother me much. It's worth mentioning that it still eats up all CPU resources and carries through connection to the MS servers that it goes down. I can only assume that it's a byproduct of low wattage of the CPU, which maxes out at only 35 watts. Owners of even lower powered CPUs, as for example U-series, might be out of luck with new Turn 10 Studio release. Before jumping into graphics menu and start tinkering with the options, I've tried Auto Settings Scaler, which does an excellent job of adjusting the settings and maintaining target performance. Massive round of applause for the studio for commending such an achievement. With everything set to auto, it's like playing the game on a console. If you can't be bothered with doing manual adjustments yourself, this is definitely an option for you. But that's not why we're here for, right? Dynamic render quality determines quality of final output image. From my testings, I can tell that medium quality delivers mostly smooth 60 FPS, with some dips to 57 or 59 when not much is going on screen, down to about 54 to 55 when engine is being pushed. High, on the other hand, can go down to high 40s when stressed. Image quality between the two is hard to tell apart when in motion. Possibly screenshots and pixel peeping would reveal some differences, but when you play as intended, the difference is negligible. Next, we have performance target with the choice of 30, 60 or unlimited with or without VSync. I would strongly suggest 60 FPS option with VSync, as it will give you most stable and consistent experience. Resolution scale dictates resolution at which image is being rendered before upscaling it to your screen res of choice. The higher the better, of course, depend on what your GPU can handle before becoming bottleneck. My 3060 can render the image at 85% of 1440p resolution. Less capable GPUs most likely will have to go down with either res, scale, or both. I've set our anisotropic filtering to 8 times setting as a good balance between quality and performance. Going down to lighting, the most taxing by far is ray tracing. Let's face it, most mid-range laptop graphic cards will only be able to render the game with RT at 30 FPS cap. RTAO is even more demanding, and it's out of question for a modest 3060. Shadow quality in itself isn't that demanding, but largely increases VRAM usage. Even greater VRAM usage boost is caused, understandably, by track texture quality. For mobile GPUs with 6 gigs of VRAM, medium makes most sense. Exceeding VRAM limit will manifest in lots of stutters, as data will be transferred from VRAM to system RAM. Cube map reflections can be boosted to high, at least on 3060. It results in higher refresh rate of the reflections on car body and greatly improves overall visual aesthetics. However, dropping it to medium will gain you few frames per second. Car models set to medium is a good choice as a middle ground in terms of visual versus performance. Windshield and mirror reflections will matter mostly if you prefer in-car camera. Depending on your GPU, you could try to increase it to high, especially if you have CPU with high power limit to back up your GPU. Car livery quality have very minor impact on performance as well as VRAM usage, and I've set it to ultra. Particle effects quality are left at low as my CPU is a clear bottleneck, and in my opinion it isn't an option which have any significant impact on overall image quality. Motion blur and lens flare quality is more kind of personal preference than a resource hog. Impact on FPS is noticeable only on the high settings. Unfortunately, when playing with custom settings, we can observe abnormal behavior at random times, like dropping frame rate from 60 to 24 or even less. There's no specific pattern to these occurrences, and it can happen randomly at any time. Curiously, it is not happening when switch dynamic render quality to default, which sets every option to auto. When using your own personal options, the game is heartbroken. Hopefully Turn 10 will release a patch to mitigate these issues. If you've watched to this point, thank you very much. Please like and subscribe if you'd like to watch more content like this. Your comments are also welcomed. Until the next one, take care.